Welcome back to the Victorious Podcast, where we help you elevate your standards of life. I'm your host, Nick Santonastasso, and today, the man to my left, got a big track record. We're going to dive into it, but he got a big track record. I'm going to throw a few things out there. I think he's responsible for over $2 billion in sales. But when I look at you, before I introduce you, when I look at you, I see a great mentor, I see a great friend, a great brotherhood, and I also see a great teacher and a great light worker. I think there's a lot of negativity and terrible things in the world, and people like you and I, we spread light and we make people elevate their standards and get to the next level. And so I'm excited to announce and welcome to the Victorious Podcast, Nick Sarnicola. What's up, man? How we doing?
What's up, everybody?
I got the same name, so this is gonna be a good one.
Two Nick S's.
Yeah, and we're Italian.
I'm the other Nick.
This is gonna be interesting. So here on the Victorious Podcast, what I love to do, and I was mentioning earlier, is diving into the mental syntax. Because I think that if you can learn from successful people on how they think, you can then apply that into your life.
Yeah.
And everybody loves the current success and where you are currently. I want to dive deeper into how did you create this monster?
I'm in. I love it.
Great. So first and foremost, where are you from and how was upbringing? How was childhood? What did that look like for you?
Yeah. So I'm from Grand Rapids, Michigan, and everything was vanilla. And I mean that. Like, it was the most blue collar, suburban, middle class experience that anyone could have. We had everything that we needed, but not everything that we wanted. We played sports and rode bikes and went to school and, terrorized the neighborhood, and you got in just enough trouble so that it was fun, but not too much so that you could still play sports. Sports were king of the area. Parents were great. They're still together 50 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So the reason I'm a dig, right? I'm a dig here. The reason why I do this is because most of our beliefs in our model of the world were cultivated between 0 and 7 when you were a young boy, right? We were very suggestible. So I'd be curious, as a young boy, was your family entrepreneurial? What did they do? Were you exposed to that? Like, what were you exposed to?
Not only were they not entrepreneurial, they're the most opposite you could ever possibly imagine of entrepreneurial. So all four of my grandparents, same factory. Dad worked at that factory. Brothers worked at that factory. Uncles worked at that factory at some point. The factory had 10,000 people that worked at it at Steelcase, multiple locations throughout Grand Rapids. It was like a town inside the city, and it was a breeding ground for blue collar.
So was there a point where they tried to recruit you?
I did work one summer. It was considered a great job. Because you could make, $70,000 a year there. And I spent one summer working it was called Steelcase, and that was all I needed to know. I would never, ever survive. I didn't even make it through the whole summer. I think I quit. Wow. Yeah, it's bad.
Well, I think that's important, just that in itself, because the only way you truly find out if you enjoy something is try it. Yeah. Right? And I think people should just try things more. So with that being said, I want to talk about money. Is that okay?
Oh,
I want to talk about relationships with money, right? So in my house, money was a hush-hush topic. Yep. And so it was like kind of taboo. You never talked about how much money you had. So most of our model of the world is viewing our parents and how they operate. And so how were they with money? You said you had everything you needed. You didn't have everything you wanted. How were your parents with money? Was it a topic they talked about? Was it scarce? What did that look like for you?
It definitely was not a conversation they would talk about with us. There was never like, let's sit down and educate you guys on financial literacy, right? Which is a huge thing I do with my kids.
Which I love.
Thank you. And my mom worked part-time at the hospital. My dad worked full-time. And they never fought, but every once in a while, if they argued, it would definitely be about money. I remember a blowout fight one time. My mom taking the money out of her wallet, like throwing it at my dad. And my dad saying something and slamming the door, and now the money's blowing around outside. I remember that. I remember just always little arguments of having to do with money. My mom worked only to buy gifts, so that way my dad could say what gifts couldn't be bought.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's a little system there.
Yeah. So she'd make $12,000 a year just to spend on $12,000. She'd probably spend on $14,000 for the gifts and carry some credit card debt.
Wow.
Yeah.
So seeing that, as a kid, what do you think the relationship you adopted with money? Like, money was scarce, or it was hard to get, because right, based on that experience and what you're exposed to, the meaning you could give money was like, money makes people fight as a kid. So like, what did that look like?
So I don't know if it was seeing that and saying I'm never going to have an issue with money, or just, being unique enough to see things on television, movies, on magazines and say, oh, I want to be rich one day. I don't know if they were mutually exclusive or not, but I definitely remember as a kid going, I want to be rich. People do this, this, and this. We don't do that, that, and that. I want to. So how do you do that? And yeah.
Okay. So who was growing up? I have a few different questions. I have a bunch of questions on my show now. I get to dive deep.
Let's go.
Right. Who was your first like role model or someone that you were exposed to? Right. Because, if I can look back at my life, and my parents weren't very entrepreneurial, so I didn't have anyone to look up to. I didn't even know what the world of entrepreneurship was.
Okay.
Right? So what age and who was that first person in your life that kind of said, hey, look at this world?
So to actually know that there was a word called entrepreneurship, I didn't establish till I was 18.
Wow.
But somewhere between, 10 and 18, I knew I wanted to be rich one day. So I just went through the process of elimination. I can't sing, I can't dance, I can't rhyme, I can't act, I'm not going to do anything illegal, must play sports. So I said, I'm going to be successful financially and time freedom and standing ovations and all that other stuff through sports. And that was the deduction that I made. So anything that was a hero was somebody, in that world or in the world of things that require these superhuman gifts that are well beyond your mental capacity or your heart, but physical capabilities. And through process of elimination, I was best at sports.
What sport?
Baseball is what I went to college for. I loved playing football more. I stopped playing basketball, I was okay at that, but baseball was kind of my most natural sport.
And do you think because I was a wrestler, and I think that sculpted and cultivated a specific mindset, was there a correlation? I want to know if you were like a confident kid, or did you build confidence? Was there any time where you were like an insecure, weak, like, was there any bad stuff?
So I established leadership. I'm looking back in my life because I've gone through a lot of these things of going back in your life. I can remember 2 times in preschool where I was already executing leadership. One was I convinced the whole class to get onto the merry-go-round to see if I could push it by myself. And they all 18 got on. And I remember pushing that thing by myself going, wow, this is cool. I was probably doing it to show off or maybe for attention. I don't think I was doing it because I was trying to execute leadership to see if I could influence them. But there's another one where in preschool, I had convinced like 8 of the other kids there's this giant cardboard castle inside the classroom. It felt giant, it's probably tiny. And I said, all right, when the break is over, we're all staying inside the castle. You in, you in, you in. And we all stayed inside the castle. To which I got in really big trouble. My preschool teacher, shout out, she actually told my mom that by the time I'd be 18, I'd be in jail. That's what my preschool teacher told my mom. Second grade, I remember trying to organize a club, president, vice president, treasurer, that type of stuff. So, I definitely did not lack confidence in that regard. But sports, I'll let you obviously do a follow-up question here, but sports was absolutely the most important part of my life.
That's very interesting. Did you know that she said that about you?
I didn't. I don't know if my mom came out with that one when I became successful or when I went into entrepreneurship. And then what's interesting about this is my kid who's 6, super hyper. And every day now his teachers make him sign off on a progress report because they don't know how to manage, his personality. They don't know how to manage him. 'Cause I'm like, does he do anything bad? Like, well, no. It's like, does he say bad words? Like, no. Like, he's all over the place. He just doesn't listen that well. I'm like, yeah, he's going to be great. So I'm constantly having to deframe what they're framing. I'm like, just so you know, your energy is your superpower. When later on in life, when everyone else is tired and you're working, when you're on the soccer field and you got to go with those last few minutes left, your energy is your superpower. And I'm having to work against his teachers that are trying to frame him as this challenge because he's so active.
Wow. I love that because with the wrong frame, he can develop wrong beliefs.
Correct.
Right. So that's why I was curious of like, did you know that she said that about you? Because maybe if you did hear it at a young boy, that would have made you have some beliefs and alter your life.
It's possible. It's possible. It could have had a very large, impact and direction for sure.
And you said leadership in preschool.
Yeah.
So I'm curious because you're known for leadership and the amazing things that you've been able to build and scale, which we'll get into. Do you think leadership was in you? Because I know it's also a muscle and a skill that people can cultivate. And you think it was just you were born a little leader?
Leadership is definitely a skill that can be taught. And it's like, how do you become great at leadership? You practice it. How do you become great at public speaking? You practice it. So practicing leading people, absolutely is the first step to become a great leader. I didn't know how to define leadership until I read the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And now I think I default from a definition perspective to John C. Maxwell's perspective of what leadership is. Because a lot of times we're like, oh, that person's a leader. And then you're like, no, they're just an entrepreneur. There's a difference. Or that person is a leader. Like, no, they're a genius. That is a big difference. So I think, yes, I had a natural tendency towards leadership, but I wasn't taught leadership. Like, hey, this is what leadership is. This is how a leader acts. This is what a leader does. And I couldn't define leadership, but I definitely was attempting to lead people. And if I was to be very critical, I don't know if, I think it was probably more because of the attention or recognition as opposed to, the pure desire to lead humans at the age of 7.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I think too, with leadership, you can't lead others until you can figure out how to lead your damn self.
Yeah.
Right. And I know your expertise is in leadership. It's also in sales and scaling. Would you say in the entrepreneur world, or maybe someone who's younger that wants to dive into this world, that leadership and sales are probably pretty saucy skill sets?
Well, I'm biased.
Okay, I'd love to hear, yeah.
I'm biased. So I think every single human being should involve themselves in sales for a little while, because you're always in sales. Oh, I do biz dev. Yeah, you do sales. Oh, I do tech. Okay, well, do you have a team that does what you tell them to when you're selling them, right? So sales is just influence, right? So whether you like the transactionary part of it or not, influence is sales, sales is influence. Sales leadership is definitely different, because sales leadership is about commission structures, recruiting, culture, systems, LMS, scaling, expanding, marketplaces, vision, treating people as individuals, but also making sure they fit inside the team. It's very, very different skill sets of sales and sales leadership.
Which one fires you up the most?
Sales leadership, for sure. Most of my sales team can outsell me on a transactional one-to-one basis. I'll dive in and I'll sell just so they know, hey, I can do this. But my strength is really sales leadership.
Love that. So diving into, I guess, pre-adult or adult, right?
Yep.
Would you say, because we're talking about sports, and I remember you mentioned that you're basically all your eggs were in sports, right? That's what you wanted to do. And so
every egg.
I think every egg, right? So
all the eggs.
I think a lot of people can relate to that, right? Because there was probably an identity crisis, right? When you were like, oh shit, I can't do sports, or I need to do something greater, right? And oftentimes we get our identity tied into this one thing, put all eggs in that one basket. I want to go to the NFL, or I want to do this. Shit, I had it easy. I was like, I ain't good at any sports, so I'm not putting any of my eggs in that basket. So what did that look like for you? You put all these eggs in sports, your whole identity's wrapped into it. Was there a point where you had to stop and you had to shift? Like, what was that transition for you?
I was very fortunate, to be honest with you. I got a scholarship to play college baseball, and I kind of knew that I was good enough to make it to college when I'm just kind of assessing the talent. And I also knew that I had a superpower in baseball, which is I was left-handed. And I was what they call football fast. So I was football fast in baseball, which is rare, right? So on the downside was I didn't know how fast I was, how good I was, because here's where money pops up. My parents didn't put me in any of these camps or any of these elite things, because we're not gonna waste money on that, right? We're not gonna waste money on, you're in Little League, that's enough. I didn't know there's like all these other organizations that are travel teams, and they might know, but didn't want me to know because of the money. I sure as hell wasn't going to college camps at age 12 and finding out what the best talent in the world looked like. My first camp I went to was the Western Michigan University camp, where my brother went to school. And the college scouts, like, look, we want him to come to this camp. They told my parents, came to games, like, we want him to come to this camp. So now I'm headed into my senior year, which is pretty much, it's too late in the game. And I find out how fast I am when I smoke their center fielder, who's 22 and I'm 17, in a 60-yard dash. So in baseball, you do a 60, and I just smoked him. And they're like, you ran a 6.3. I'm like, what does that mean? I'd never been timed in a 60. Well, the Major League Baseball average is 7 seconds flat. So, and I ran in a 6.3. So now I realize, oh, wow, apparently I'm really, really insanely top 1% baseball fast. I get a scholarship to play. I chose our junior college locally because it won 4 national championships in 6 years. So it was well known for baseball. And by the time I get there, I realized that I was so far behind everyone else mechanically. So mine was it was just natural. It was just, I had a natural gift for baseball, but I had a lot of wrong mechanics. And, imagine playing a sport for 13 years and then they want to change everything about your stance, your swing, your this, your that. And I couldn't make the adjustments. So I was at college, but I had already been introduced to direct sales network marketing 9 months earlier.
While you were playing baseball?
While I was playing college baseball.
How'd that come about? Who exposed you?
Dude, I was the one guy that worked at a mall that got recruited in network marketing that made it.
Really?
Yeah. I worked at a mall, sold a suit to a guy. He's like, you have to check this out. And 2 weeks later, I drove 2.5 hours this presentation. I was like, this is amazing. But I stayed focused still on baseball for 2 years, but it moved from the back of my mind to the forefront of my mind of, wait a second, I don't know if I'm going to make it in sports, but that over there, that thing, that pyramid thing, which was a subset of entrepreneurship, right? It's like entry level entrepreneurship. It doesn't require any physical gift, physical talent, ability to sing, ability to this. It doesn't matter how fast I run. All it requires is pure heart and desire. And I knew that I could win at that game if it was just pure heart and desire.
Yeah, that's beautifully said. I want to acknowledge you because, like I said earlier, I think most people get tied up into one identity, and then when they realize that they're capped on that path, they think that, I can't do anything else, or they take so many years to process that they're not playing baseball anymore, or they're not doing that sport, and they sit in this limbo. And oftentimes, if they do something and they fail at it, they think they're going to fail at everything else. And so I want to acknowledge you because you're like, no, I'm just going to shift over here and focus my energy over here. I don't need to be fast. I don't need to jump. I don't need to do this. I just need some heart desire. So that was the start, right? You said very entry level of entrepreneurship. Yeah. So you started there. What was kind of your goal? What did you want to work for? Like, what did you want to work towards?
Then.
Yeah, then. Because I know it's way different than now.
I want to be rich.
Yeah. What was rich to you, by the way? Because you're born in Michigan, right? Blue collar. Yeah. What was rich to you?
I thought I wanted to be a multimillionaire. That was going to be enough. Okay. I was like, I'm going to be a multimillionaire. And because you and I have gone through similar training, the fulfillment I was getting through network marketing was the same I was getting from sports. So I couldn't have said that then, but looking back, it was really easy to identify. I was getting the exact same fulfillment. So it was very easy to transition. Yeah. What I meant by that was I was building a team. There was a crowd, there was trophies, there was top producers. There was, it was the exact same thing as the sport. So I wasn't performing well anymore in baseball. I was starting to become this young, wow, look what this kid's doing in this little business. So the more they fed that, the more time I put in it, the more result I got. So it's easy for me to just throttle down one and throttle up the other.
Yeah, I love that. It was meet your needs in the same way.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. And there were shallow needs. There was really, they were very significant space. It didn't matter. Like at that age, if that's what pours gasoline in the fire, so be it.
Yeah.
I don't think you have to be an 18-year-old that's got to be doing everything for love and contribution. I was like, 100%. Yeah. So, and going back to the money side of it, the driving force for both was absolute fear to my bones, every atom in my body of mediocrity. I had an absolute fear of mediocrity.
Wow, that's powerful.
That was the driver.
Because it drove you.
No,
and that's like pain, right? That's not even pleasure. That's just like the pain of being mediocre.
All pain. And I was like, do I want to live the rest of my life sitting where everyone else in this neighborhood sits, doing what they do, seeing what they see, talking the way they talk, having what they have? Hell no, hell no, hell no. And, the moment I considered that as an option, it would just fire me up to do 10 more of this or 100 more of that or whatever it was, right?
I'd be curious to get your answer. Why doesn't everyone have that drive to not be mediocre?
So my junior year of high school, I did a speech that everything in life is based on mindset. And I don't have a basis for this. Now, if you're a kid who's driving around in your parents' car and they're playing you, audios from, well, I guess growing up from Jim Rohn or
They were doing that?
No.
Oh, okay. I was like, damn.
No. If you were, it would make sense that by the time you're 17 or 16, you're doing a speech on that.
Yeah.
For me, it was the movie Rudy.
Okay.
Do you remember the movie Rudy?
I don't.
Okay, you got to watch this movie.
All right.
It's about Rudy Rudiger, who is this high school kid who's 160 pounds that finally makes it to the practice squad of Notre Dame, and finally gets on the field for one play, and he records one tackle, and the whole movie is about this heart of a lion in this little itty bitty frame, just getting his ass kicked over and over and over again. I was like, I can do that. And that was embedded. So I was this average athlete sophomore year, and then watched this movie, and then I just went like balls to the wall, didn't do anything but work out or anything that had to do with speed or anything that had to do with getting better at a sport all the time, 24/7. And it worked. Like my athleticism just went through the roof. But unfortunately, it wasn't. It was kind of a too little, too late scenario. But I was able to easily translate that over into entrepreneurship because the gain was still that large gain, right? The upside of success in sports or the upside in success in music or movies is the same as the upside in entrepreneurship. They just don't teach us, right? Nobody taught us in school about entrepreneurship. Had they done that, I would have started entrepreneurship as a 5-year-old, right? So, yeah. So a little bit of journeys. That movie, Rudy, taught me that if you have the right mindset, you can do or overcome anything. And then I applied that into sports, and then I applied that into entrepreneurship.
You gave a speech on it.
Gave a speech on it. Junior high school. Everything in life is mental.
And so why don't you think most people have that, right? Because why is there so many people that are average? And I don't say that in throwing rocks, and maybe I am throwing rocks as well, but
those rocks.
Yeah. Why can you see someone who's just like
environment?
They're complacent.
Environment and input. Full stop. Environment and input. Full stop. However, there's some, but I think your follow-up question might be, there are other people that saw that movie that weren't the light switch didn't flip, and I can't answer that but I did have to change my environment. Yeah. At age 20, I moved on purpose. I left to California so I could get out of the middle class, average input, average expectancies, average dream, no dreams, average friends of terms of what they want. That doesn't mean bad people. Like my parents are outstanding parents. My mom is the best mom on the planet. Doesn't mean that she has big dreams. She doesn't have any dreams. Actually, she has 3 dreams. She wants her 3 sons to have great lives. Those are the dreams, right? And my belief system is just different. Like, go get that dream life. Show the path. Yeah. So I can't speak to why I can see that movie and the light switch goes off, and somebody else can see it and it doesn't. I don't know. What's your theory?
Well, no, I think it's spot on with the environment, right? I think by the way, I think everybody should leave their hometown. Like there's a whole world out there, like go out there, leave your hometown and get exposed. I also think what was big that you said embedded in your mind was, if he can do it, I can do it. Yeah. And I think that is also a piece that I had, even with no legs to an arm. It's like, if I see you wrestle, it's like, oh, if he can do it, I can do it. I would find a way. I wouldn't look at the disability or my missing limbs as a disadvantage. And so to everybody out there as well, if you see someone achieving something, you can do it. Of course, it's going to take hard work and consistency and persistence, and you got to battle the ups and downs.
It's fucking hard.
But just to know that another human being can do it, like, that's enough exposure. So I think that was really big for you, is you saw someone doing it and you had that belief, like, oh, of course I can do that. And I've noticed that with very hyper successful people, is anytime that they see someone doing something, they're like, oh, bring it on. Yep. And so I think that's a trait with successful people. It's like, oh, if he can do it, I can totally crush it.
Well, and I carried that through past that age, that when I started reading autobiographies, that's when I started just multiplying in massive gains as a leader, in my action, And I mean like Nelson Mandela, reading Gandhi, reading JFK, reading just any story of a major leader. And I'd already made the conclusion early on in my life that they're humans. I'm a human. So if they can do something that big, Martin Luther King, if he can create a movement that big, I can create a movement that big. Yeah. And I just believed wholeheartedly that if someone could do something, that it could be done, I could be someone that could do it.
100%. So you join this company, you move to California, right? You start to scale. What would you say? Because there's probably people listening that are like, yo, I'm about to move into a whole new territory. Yeah. Like, how do you navigate that? Like, you're moving to California from Michigan. That's totally different.
I had some very, very insane level of discipline and belief at that time. Like, it was like rigidity, because I knew I was giving up a lot when I left Michigan. I knew I was giving up sports. I was giving up on my dream that I had my whole life. And I was picking this as the new dream. So there's no way in hell I was going to go there and fail, because if I was going there and failing, that meant coming home. And I wasn't about to come back home, right? So for me, it was life or death, but not really dying. But to me, it would have been an emotional death to come back home to say, all right, I lost my dream. I lost my girl. I left and I couldn't pull it off. So here I am back with all of you guys, right? And that would have been death. So I treated it every day like it was life or death. And I would not do anything. And this, only my roommates can validate this. If it didn't grow my business, if it didn't help my body or my brain, I didn't do it for years. I was that rigid and disciplined. All it was sports, working out, building the business 16 hours a day, and reading and listening to tapes or CDs, I guess, at that time. So that was it.
That's savage.
And it worked.
Yeah. Growth and contribution, talking about it, right? But talking about meeting the needs is like, in sports, you got your growth, you got your contribution, you're giving back, and then you get to go into this whole new industry where you get the growth, you get contribution, and you get money, right? But you totally flip-flop your environment, right? Expose yourself to new books, expose yourself to new people, new standards. And that's why I think it's important for people to get out of their hometown. Like, go expose yourself to
get out,
have higher standards. And what you said was really powerful is Nick got leverage, right? And your leverage was, I'm not going back there, right? And I just helped one of my friends with this, best friend, went to high school with. I was like, move to Florida. And I said, I promise you, the moment you move to Florida, you'll never go backwards, because it's too tough for you to move back in with your parents, right? And now he's on his own and he's exposed to this whole new life and making small shifts. But that's what you did, is like, you burn the boats, but you were like, hey, leverage wise, like the worst thing that I could do is move back to Michigan with my family, go be a grocery clerk. Hey, nothing wrong with that, but right. But that was
work at the factory.
Yeah.
I'm now a college dropout. I'm a baseball dropout. What am I going to do if I come back?
And I think that's really powerful. That's a testament to who you are and your psychology at the time, because so many people, like I said, if something didn't work out, they would just quit. They're like, okay, this isn't just for me. This isn't for me. Yep. So now you're building, you're leading. What does this look like? Does your money go up? And how did you act when you got more money?
But when I first got out there, it was a struggle. There was 3 of us in a 2-bedroom apartment. Cockroaches, $700 a month. I just visited the apartment last month, actually, to go look at it again. Yeah. And, I was convinced that I had a small time frame to make this work, to make it work fast. So I didn't do anything but try to figure out how to build that business. And it didn't happen fast. When I moved out there, I was probably making $1,200 a month, maybe. Soon it went to 2,000, and soon it went to 4, and then it went to 8. And so it wasn't like when I got out there, I was making money. It took me another 3 years.
Oh, wow.
So I was 20 when I got there, but it was 23 before I get to, like, let's say $250,000 a year or more. So, and that was good money in 2002, right? It was that'd be probably $500,000 a year now, right? So I was definitely happy at that point. But this was the willingness to sacrifice everything. This was mac and cheese, ramen noodles, peanut butter. I don't know if anyone in the world consumed more peanut butter sandwiches. It was eggs, peanut butter sandwich, ramen noodles, spaghetti, and mac and cheese. That was it. That was the diet for a couple of years. It was sleeping in hotel parking lots for the training the next day, driving up the night before, so you didn't have to pay for the room. It was all the stuff that you hear about, sleeping on people's floors all the time, on people's couches in different cities, because we were broke. I was broke, So, and if I did make money, I was putting it back into the team or putting it back into the business. So even when I got to $5,000 a month or $6,000 a month, I was still just as broke as I was at $1,000 a month, because I was just trying to double down and double down and double down.
Did you have a specific goal? Like you wanted to build it up to this specific amount of revenue?
Because it was the great thing about network marketing is the gamification of it. It's like the whole thing is just gamification. It's recognition, it's rewards, it's trophies, it's anything to drive that part of you. And I was perfect for that at a young age for gamification. So I just wanted to hit the rank, because the rank meant the money, right? Yeah. So whatever I do to hit the rank, and you just run to the rank. And so I just ran to the ranks and helped everyone else run to their ranks so that I could hit my rank. And rank equaled success. Rank equaled income.
That was the meaning too.
Yeah.
Right. So what was the point where you're like, wow, I'm making cash. I'm making some money. Was there a point where like, no? Because I think a lot of people, especially a lot of people listening, humans in general, we get to this point where we're like, I'll be successful when I get this amount of money, or I'll be successful when I buy this car, or I'll be successful when I can do this for my mom. And it's like, you miss this whole journey of not feeling successful until you get that thing, and then the goalpost moves.
Yeah.
Like, was there psychology there for you?
So the dream got so big so fast that I really didn't reach what you're speaking about until I was probably 33. So it was 13
years.
15. I was 18 to 20. Yeah. 15 of being a part of it, but 13 of being fully committed to it. So 13-year full commitment.
Same company?
No. See, the company went out of business, and I bought the assets and created our company.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you had the cash to do that?
Yeah. We did a leveraged asset buyout. They needed it. Otherwise, they're gonna have to bankrupt it anyways.
Whose idea? How did you come up with that idea?
Well, the owners of the prior company called myself and they called me to bring me in to look at everything. They wanted me to take over the company. And I was like, this is burn this thing down. Like, once I understood how bad it was on the other side, and I had Blake, who was my top guy, who was good at everything I'm not good at. I said, Blake, you got to come look at this on the inside too. And the only thing we could think of was a full rebrand, get rid of everything and restart the whole thing. And, we presented that idea to them. And, after a couple of months, they're like, you just take it and we'll do a leverage buyout. It was a back end deal. So it's like, if we make it big, they make it big. If they don't, I think we bought the assets from them for like $50,000 or something small. But we had to fund everything. So it was funding everything that was the hard part. And we were on our own to make it work. And we created this cool little company, and we brought on a third partner who was really the ops and business wisdom. He brought on the investor. We were 23, 25, and 27. And away we went. I mean, we killed it right out of the gates. We met with the investor. He's like, all right, you're at, I don't remember, $40,000 a month in sales. It's nice. Call me when you get to $250,000. All right, now we've got a target. So we sprinted. It took us like 5 months to 5x, 6x the sales. Yeah. He's like, all right, wrote us a $2 million check. We then got it to $3 million a month in sales within 2 more years. Now we're 27, 25, 28, 27, and 25. And they actually buy us in a 4-year buyout, back end loaded, which was really interesting part, my story.
Yeah. Before you dive into that, I want to dissect that. You mentioned Blake.
Yep.
And you talk very highly of him.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of myself in you guys, like with Ratmir and I as partners. And so when did Blake come into your life, and what really made that bond so deep? Because would you agree it's a very deep bond?
Yep. So Blake showed up to a presentation. I was 21 and he was 19. So he showed up to a presentation, and he showed up with 6 people. That doesn't happen when you don't know what you're coming to look at. Like, even right now, if I said, hey, bring 6 of your buddies to dinner tonight, how hard is that? Yeah. Like, it's not easy to just grab 6 people and get them to do anything. And especially when you're in college and most of you guys don't have cars and you're going to a different college campus. So to pull 6 people off that are freshmen, convince them to go in a car and go look at a presentation thing on a different campus. So he walked in, I was like, who the hell is that kid? And we're having conversations. I don't know how, but I was taught at a very young age, really high level strategy that I don't even know if I should have known, of identifying the people in the room and like really high end stuff. And I was,
know where you learned that?
No, I do know where I learned it. I don't know if I was supposed to have learned it that quickly, but now when looking back, I'm like, I knew immediately, 21 years old, there's a person of influence. Okay, change the presentation, cater it to that kid. Like we're having a conversation outside the room. It's like, we're changing the order. You're going to present, I'm going to close, I'm going to cater my clothes like that. And I was 21. Wow. And, so Blake just thought, God, this guy's talking to me.
Well done.
So I was like, who brought him? Bring me the guy that brought him. Tell me about him. And it was a pure, I catered the presentation to influence the influencer in the room, even though we were both kids. Yeah. So at the end, they're like, hey, Mr. Sarnicola wants to meet with you.
Nice. The frame. Let's go.
So, I strategically pulled him aside. Hey, let's talk. I see you have a lot of influence. I want to meet with you privately in the next couple of days. So I meet with Blake. If you know anything about network marketing, Blake's at my 7th level. So I had to tell someone who told 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 Blake. And that's how I met Blake. Wow. Yeah. And my ex-wife was probably my 21st level of referral. I met her because of 20 different relationships that had to happen across an entire country and 5 states in between. Wow. That's what's so cool about, that industry is you just never know. So Blake, he drank the Kool-Aid like I drank the Kool-Aid. Someone poured into me that they believed that I could do it, and I poured into him. And he started just rising through the ranks. He then became the top producer of the team. He then became my right hand. I was like, all right, we need to create our own training programs because we're different than the rest of this company. And he's like, all right, I know how to burn CDs. And he's got a CD burner. And we were launching at 23 and 25. I wrote a 300-page training manual, 3 workbooks, 100-page long. He worked with the graphic designers to lay it out. We both audio recorded. He burned the CDs. He got the label printers. And we were kids, right? It's just like, that was the stuff we were doing in college while I was a dropout. He was still in college. While everyone else was dicking around, getting shit canned at the frat parties, we were really learning how to launch companies. We were practicing in the network marketing industry, but that's what we were learning how to do.
Oh man, there's a few things I want to unpack. The first thing is, would you agree sacrificing the early years was worth it for what your life looks like now? Speak to them on that.
I can't put enough emphasis into the agreement, right? And now having my own kids, I kind of vacillate back and forth. It's like, I remember people saying to me, like, you're throwing away the best years of your life. All you do is you do these stupid presentations until 10 p.m. and then you go work out and play basketball till 1 a.m. and you do personal growth and you wake up and you just do it again. You waste all the... I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be fucking broke the rest of your life. You're wasting the best years of your life. My life got better every single year from age 18 to 35. It got better every year. Now, there was major crises inside of certain years. There was lots of downs. But people ask me this, they're young now, like, would you have done it again? Or what would you have done differently? I said, I would have sacrificed more. I would have gone harder. I would have gone faster. Like, well, how's that possible? Like, it's always possible. Even at my most efficient time of my life and the most productive, I always went to bed saying I could have done more. Yeah. I could have done more. And if I have any advice to anyone, that's young out there right now, giving up those early years, fucking give them all up. Give them all up. Now, that was harder than when college was this main thing. Now you listen to Gary Vee and like he's onto something, obviously. It's like, give them all up. Go for it. Who cares? You're only 23. But back when we were in school, it's like if you were 23, 24 and you weren't in your career and maybe married with a kid, you were a fucking failure. You were failing life. Especially in middle America. So I think it's even easier now to sacrifice it all and go hard at an early age.
Yeah, I love that. Because I think you can look at your current life, right? And I can look at my current life. And if we if we see our current outcome, we were like, oh, I wish I would have went faster to get here quicker, right? I think another thing that's important to acknowledge is you said Blake was good at all the things that you weren't good at. And I think oftentimes people think that they can like lone wolf it forever and like, you know, self-made. And I don't think anyone's truly self-made. I think you always have a village around you. And so was there any difficulty or conflict navigating partnership with two alpha men? Does it make sense?
You know what's, and Blake would probably agree to this. Blake is an alpha in the way that he doesn't have a desire to be the front person. And he'll be like, hey, I'm happy being the number 2, number 3, as long as I believe in the number 1 and I can be the person that supports the run, right? So he grew into that desire, which is interesting because growing up, he was always number 1 as well. He was like 4.3 GPA. How the fuck do you even break 4? Is that even He graduated magna cum laude. He's valedictorian, class president, 4.3, magna cum laude from his top 6 university. But remember, he was doing network marketing with me. So he was a top producer in college while graduating double major in 3 years, top 6 university. So he's as smart and efficient. I think he's as efficient as any human I've ever met. Wow. Like in terms of maximization and activation, there's no one better. So anything you threw at him, you could throw him 1,000 different things and he would get them all done. Right? It didn't matter what it was. So it was a great balance once we understood what each other's strengths really were, because I'm more of a catalyst, you know, and I'm feeling and passion, and he's more logic and you know, he's got all the I's dotted and T's crossed. So
yin and yang.
Yeah. So, you know, our differences were more not because of our similarities, we're both alpha. Our differences were us figuring out our difference. I guess that's the wrong, I shouldn't use that word. Our difficulties were figuring out how to operate through our differences, not our similarities, right? It's like respecting the differences, respecting that we do things a different way. We have different temperaments, you know, like I'd be known to fly off the handle from age 22 to 32 specifically, 23 to 33, very passionate Italian, high temperament. And he, you know, why are you screaming? I'm like, I'm not, I'm fucking talking. There was very different behaviors in that way. So he now, once he realized what my value systems were and what my intentions were, and he knew for a fact, it didn't matter what my delivery was anymore to him. He would just get with people like, look, it's just Nick being Nick. I was like Manny being Manny. Yeah, I don't know if you remember that in baseball, Manny Ramirez. It's just Manny being Manny. It was like, look, it's just Nick being Nick. You know why he's so fired up. You know why he's so intense. It's not because of anything other than he wants all of us to succeed at the highest level. Love that. But his path to that is very different than my path to that.
Yeah, I love that. So you scale this company, you're going through a specific exit. I know there's some challenges, some disruption in your life. Can you walk us through that?
Sure. So we get acquired in a 4-year buyout by what we thought was that our dreams have come true. It's a $1.7 billion publicly traded holding company in 25 countries, 30 years old, and they only acquire direct selling companies, or they specialize in acquiring direct selling companies. So they had a portfolio of direct selling companies. And we're like, oh my God, this is perfect. We've got an operating partner, finance, legal, international expansion, and us 3 young guys can be the face of this and just go do what we do. And they buy us, we get our first payment, we get a couple $1 million up front, and the next month after the announcement is when the recession hits. So our sales go like this, and then immediately like this. We go from $3 million a month to $600,000 a month in sales in 1 year. And it was so bad that the company that bought us, in their tax returns of 2009, they wrote us down, which meant they claimed us against their taxes. So we were a tax break. They said, this is a bad investment. We're going to claim you against our taxes. We're like, wow, that's embarrassing, because anyone that could read publicly traded documents can see that they claimed us against their taxes, like one of their children. Now, I was really too young at that point and naive to understand how bad that was, or how bad that looked. I was just trying to figure out how to solve the problem. Because what I saw was a compensation plan that had a huge 8x multiple on our profits. And my job was to focus on the top line, and my partners would focus on the bottom line, right? So I said, if I can influence the top line and they can influence the bottom line, we still, even though we just dropped our sales by 75%, this is just pure naivety, stupidity, confidence, ego, swag, somewhere in the middle of all of it. I'm like, no, guys, look, this last year is the only year that matters. If we can go do 500 million in sales, we'll be worth 50 million. And that was all I saw. So nobody believed that was possible, including my partners. But we had created this new idea called Body by Vi, the 90-day challenge. It was the first idea in the weight loss and fitness arena around challenge marketing. Some people argue that the Pepsi challenge was the first, challenge marketing approach. Yes and no. They were challenging one other product, Coca-Cola. Take ours, take theirs. Which one's better? Yeah. Where ours was, we were challenging the person to become a better person. To engage in fitness or working out or exercise or whatever. And that had never happened before. And it went viral like overnight. And our sales went from 600,000 a month. This is literally unbelievable, to 66 million a month in 32 months. Oh my God. We were 1 month from bankrupt to 66 million a month of sales in 32 months. That's how big challenge marketing was to the first company that created it. Wow. It was a rocket ship. Okay. I haven't told you the bad news yet, so I'm gonna let you say that.
Yeah, hold on. Yeah. What's the mental syntax when something goes wrong like that? Because I'm sure there was some fear, but like you took action. And I think a lot of people probably experienced that early on. I always say there's two types of people during COVID: people that sat around waiting for the world to come back to normal, and other people that pivoted and made their move. The ones who waited got crushed. And so like, what's your mindset during that time of like, oh my God, we just got written off as a tax write-off and everything's going downhill?
After that 10 straight years of personal growth and personal development combined with massive action, I say these together because I think people usually only get half the formula right. You have a lot of people watching the podcast today that are buried in personal growth and personal development, so they think they're going to make it, and they're not. And you have a lot of people that are buried in action that don't have time for personal growth and personal development, that think they're going to make it, and they're not. Right? So I had this really cool balance of that decade, and it was so intense, and it was so much of it that never did I waver, and never was there any fear. And the fear of everyone else didn't bother me. A lot of that was just pure ego, right? So I was the chief sales officer of the company, and my own top sales leaders said, no, this isn't going to work. The pivot, we're all out. All of them either quit, went to another company, took a payoff, or just stopped working. And I said, fuck this. I'll resign. I'll sign up, and I'll show all of you guys. Watch this. Hold my beer. That was literally, I
signed up as like a salesperson?
I signed up as a promoter inside my own company to prove the model. That's how much belief I had in my ability. I guess I could probably say this now. I had lost control at that point of my own company. I was the original founder. Now I'm owned by this other company. My partners don't believe and where we're going. So they're starting to do weird shit, like put people underneath people. And like, you don't do that. No, right? You can't manipulate the tree. Right. And they were putting people underneath people so they wouldn't leave the company. I was like, guys, no, it's not going to create leadership. Like that's not how to do this. So I had convinced myself the only way I could take control back of my own company was from the outside in, as opposed to the inside out. So I said, if I have the influence, or if I have the following of everything in sales, then I can take control back of my company. And it worked. It was so naive. It was very stupid. I resigned my rights as an executive away. So I had my founder shares, but I'm on my own, no salary, no budgets, no employees. And, there's a quote this comes later. There's a quote in Gladiator when he's like, when General Maximus is in the Colosseum, he's like, just win the crowd, win the crowd, win the crowd. And that, when I saw that movie, I was like, that's what I felt like. I was the fucking general that then got ostracized, and now I'm out on my own, and now I have a strategy to win it all, which is I got to win the crowd.
Wow.
So yeah, and it was pure stupidity.
It worked.
So there was never a point where fear entered that this wouldn't work. And I mean, when the company went out of business that we bought the assets for, when the sales plummeted, when I went in the field, I just saw a pathway to a $50 million exit. And that's what I'd always dreamed of.
I think that's another testament to your belief and conviction in yourself, right? The relationship you have with yourself. And that was built, Nick said, that was built over 10 years of discipline of not only action. I love that formula, not only action, but personal development as well. You've been training yourself for moments like this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, we don't do all this training for all the sunshine and rainbow moments. We do this training for when shit hits the fan. And so that's exactly what happens. So now 66 million a month, right? That's a big number. I can't even count it in my hand, right? 66 million a month. And then what happens? So you're evaluated, right? You're evaluated at a specific number. What's going through your mind? Like, I would be freaking out. Like, how do you go from 600K or whatever to 66 million? Like, what's going through your head? Probably a lot of ego still. Even more if you thought his head was big then.
Every time the operations would break, I'd get on the phone with our leaders and I'd say, they're going to sprint to fix it. Let's break it again. Let's at the end of every month, our goal was to break the operation. Meaning the website crashed, the mobile app went down, the phone lines went down.
That was like a win for you.
It was a win. It was the only way, I think, to reframe it to everyone that it was good.
That is good.
Because the ops were so bad during the first 2 years of the scale, because we were running so fast and doing so much that we would declare victory if we broke the operation.
I love that.
And then the ops finally did definitely catch up. But so here's kind of the I'm going to answer a question you asked earlier, and it'll make sense here in a second. And I'm wondering if I should do that. Or you had asked, hey, something about celebrating the victories on the way, and I said no because the dream was so big. Yeah. But in the middle of 2012 is where the dream becomes real. We fulfilled it.
What was the dream? So
I'll share with you a couple. Become a multi-millionaire. At this point, I'm a decamillionaire. To have a huge company, to have the woman of my dreams, to all these things. And I remember specifically, I would end every visualization in my 20s where I'm standing in front of an arena of 10, 15,000 people. And I can remember it's July 13th, 2012, and we had just sold out the Miami Heat Arena, and there's 14,000 people there, and I'm the closing speech because I rate the agenda, so who's speaking, right? I'm the closer. And at the end of it, there's fireworks going off, and it's just our leaders are up in the front, and there's standing ovation. Me and my partners kind of go to the backstage. So we start walking backstage. We got our arms around each other, and there was this and we're kind of getting misty-eyed, and it was the we made it moment.
Wow.
Our sales never recovered. That was the highest month in sales we ever had because we made it. And you don't know if that is it because I visualized for a decade that moment? And I always say to myself, why the fuck was I not visualizing a football stadium? Why did I not see a football stadium? Why was it a basketball stadium, right? So, the sales are there, the money's there, the woman's there, the crowd is there. Everything's there, and it's beautiful, and it's working. And sales start to decline, but we do $95 million in profit that year. Profit. Wow. Well, the company that owns us, this is the last year of the buyout. So I already know I'm owed $35 million more from them. I got 20 the year before, 8 the year before that, a couple before the year that. I had to put a couple million back in to launch Body by Body because they wrote us off, right? So how it worked was they wrote us off and they said, we're done funding it. If you want to fund it, you fund it. Okay, great, we will. And then we got these great terms. It was basically a loan to company. Like, look, if you turn this around, fine, we'll give you 3x liquidation on it. You're never going to do it anyways. So we all put $1 million back in. We got $3 million back out. And then it went back to the normal ownership cap table in waterfall. And we get to first quarter of 2013. $5 million's in the account because they took $90 million, as they can because they own the company. They then do a distribute. In that distribution, we were already then reduced to 2% each. So they took 90, we got 1.8 million of that. But they also owed us our last year of the buyout. Well, guess what? They forgot to pay us. So there's 104 million, 34.5 million each they owe the three of us, and they never pay it because all of their other entities crashed during the 2008, 2009 recession, and we exploded, and the deal now was inverted. We crashed there. We should have RTO'd and taken over their company. They're like, look, by default. Yeah. But we're like, why do we want to own 9 of your other failing companies? They tried to spin us out and take us public. That was actually the solution. We can go into that story. We don't have to, but that was actually the solution. And it wasn't necessarily a relationship of war. It never was like that because remember the first investor? I said we had a first investor. It was his dad. So now our best friend, brother, and first investor, the guy that gave us a shot, it was his dad that bought our company. Mm-hmm. So now we're stuck in the middle of the relationship with the first investor, who's our chief strategy officer, and the company that bought us that didn't pay us. He, being the first investor, took a payout in 3 years, so he was already out. It was just the three of us that were left in that didn't get paid. It was an absolute train wreck. And this is where it starts to unravel. This is where the relationship starts to unravel, behavior starts to unravel, all of it starts to unravel.
Traumas, true colors, right? Pressured situations bring out different parts of people. You
ever seen like the Netflix Uber series, the series on Uber, or the series on like I think there's another one they do it's like a docu-series on Uber, and they do one on WeWork. Right, so they do docu-series from Netflix. If anyone ever knew the real story of the Body by Body 90-day challenge in that 10 years, it would absolutely be a viral docu-series sensation. It would be, it's that insane, crazy, intense. Just you can't believe that would ever happen in business / that, and then behaviors, and then relationships, and like it was insane.
So you had to walk. You didn't get paid, right?
We didn't get paid.
Never got paid $35 million.
We never walked away either.
So So let's dive into that. Imagine not getting paid $35 million. How many people would have just stayed in a victim shitty diaper mentality, right? So after you realized that, what was your next move?
Well, at this point, one of our partners starts having, some erratic behavior and turns to kind of the dark side of coping.
Yeah.
Is that politically correct?
Yep,
okay.
That's great.
Turns to the dark side of coping, and that becomes a central point of a just, domino effects of stuff in the company. But I'm certain that it was us not getting our buyout was the trigger to all of those things. And now there's these conversations happening which are strange. We are the face of the company, but we don't own the company. We can't legally make a decision about comp plan, product launches, country launches, any of it, without the 19 meetings and 72 sign-offs. At this point, every company in the industry is knocking us off. And not to mention a really good one that decides to start a complete knockoff of us with a better mousetrap, which is Beachbody. So Beachbody knocks off everything, even the color of the product, like all of it. Word for word, their 90-day challenge to our 90-day challenge, the prizes, the gifts, the shake, except they're ran by a really strong group of executives. And they have a $300 million direct-to-consumer model selling different workouts. What was their main workout? The X, P90X. They're selling P90X and then asking people, hey, would you like a shake and a coach? And just putting them in the downline of somebody in a network marketing model. So they were feeding the machine. That's how Beachbody raced to $1 billion, right? That's an MLM on this side. Nobody knew it. They didn't know they're getting flipped from P90X into an MLM. But what they're getting flipped into was a 90-day challenge with a shake, which was a complete, obviously, knockoff of ours. And they weren't the only ones. We counted 115 different MLMs that launched a weight loss or fitness challenge within 2 to 3 year time frame. So anyway, so we can't make decisions quickly. We're moving at the speed of a giant like aircraft carrier trying to turn. I don't know how long it takes an aircraft carrier to turn around, but it isn't quick. So I think, some of my partners maybe felt the pressure of that. They lost control. We didn't get paid, lost control. The solution was they were going to spin us out and take us public as our own publicly traded company, which meant we were going to be worth 70 of that instead of 35. So great idea. Let's do it. And to get to the end of the story, we're 1 week from going public, and every banker in the room changes the evaluation, and they cut the value of the company in half. They went from 1.2 billion on 627 in sales to 600 million. But guys, you want us to come out on the New York Stock Exchange with a negative valuation? Yeah. Well, can we ask why we lost half our value in 60 days? They just kept saying, you look too much like Herbalife. That was the first time, I guess it was a few months later. A few months later, as I realized for the first time in my life, there are conversations that happen and people know stuff at a very, very, very just secretive and deep level in the finance world that you will never know as the business owner. Because when you have 10 bankers that all say the same thing, you're like, well, why does that matter? Herbalife's a $4 billion market cap. They all knew that Bill Ackman, who is a central figure of Wall Street, was about to bet $1 billion hedge that he could take down Herbalife. So he bet $1 billion that they would lose, and he would turn his billion into 10 or 20, that he could take them down. And he ended up losing. Herbalife won, but he ended up taking us down in an accident. True story. Wow. When I start to share this stuff back to back, it sounds so fake and unbelievable, but this is what fucking happened. Everyone in the bankers knew that Bill Ackman was declared war on Herbalife. Herbalife's stock plummeted, which it did.
Why? I'm confused too. Why do people why do you want to take down?
I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know if anyone knows. I'm sure we can go read about why he hates Herbalife.
Yeah, I was just curious.
Yeah, but what that meant was one of our comps was Herbalife. When Herbalife stock plummeted, the months that he declared war on Herbalife, everyone else's stock plummeted in MLM alongside of it. New Skin plummeted, USANA plummeted. So as a banker in your room, you're not going to be like, all right, guys, we're going to put $1 billion into this so it can drop to 500 million next week. Yeah. So they already knew that. So we canceled the IPO. So now here we are. It's year 2. We don't own our own company. We're the face of it. It's network marketing. So it's not like you can bring everyone in the room and explain to them what's going on. We had an army of soccer moms. I'm confident a lot of the stuff I'm saying is probably not even translating. So we have to put the happy face on. And I remember one of my partners saying, fuck this. We're going to spend all the money this year so they can't take it. That was the plan? No, I'm serious. We're going to spend all offices, jets, whatever they could spend it on. My partner spent all the money so that the company that bought us couldn't dividend it out again. Sure enough, we had enough money in the bank account in 2013 that they took another 20-30 million, still hadn't paid us. By the end of 2014, when we declare, nuclear war, we finally come to an agreement where they give us the company back for that 105 million. We also had to put up about 5 million each, and da-da-da-da. By that time, man, the damage was done. 3 years of straight decline, emotional distress, we're telling the whole world we're going public and you have to cancel that the week of. I mean, we looked like complete idiots. All I can think of, rounding this long rant out, is the universe probably knew we weren't ready for another $35 million each. That's all I can think of. That's all I can come up with. You know, like
whatever you want to give it, right? That's good. Whatever meaning.
Because I'm afraid to. Not I'm afraid. I never want to be a victim of it. You know. So 100%. And anytime I think angrily about it or pops back up, it's like you weren't ready for that.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I love that. That's how you go from victim to victor.
Yeah.
And I love that. So from there, where do you go? You still got
I weep. I sob.
For how long?
No, so at this point, we're now headed into 2015. Stability of the exec team is wavering. There's some health issues inside the exec team. We make the decision for me to move to Europe because our Europe team is starting to grow. And that was my decision. I was like, I got an idea. I'm going to move to Europe. So I get a couple months from moving out there and they say, no, US and Canada's crashing. You need to stay here. Terrible decision. Had I gone, we'd probably now be doing $250 million a year. And I'll explain to you why. But we pull. So now it's like having a million holes in a dike, and you're trying to plug a million holes. That was the U.S. and Canada. It was just there's no way you could recruit fast enough. The only solution would have been to go international faster. The only solution, and isolate the speed at which we were losing people in the U.S. and Canada. Yeah. And we didn't do it. We didn't get behind enough. It was expensive, and I ended up having to take over the CEO role of the company. And the number one thing I did is I shifted everything to Europe and Italy specifically. I said, our type of business is built on the backs of great leaders. The best leaders we have in this company right now are in Italy, and I want to bet the farm on that. And it worked. But we had fell all the way. This is embarrassing. We had fallen all the way to 37 million in sales. 37 million a year.
Oh, wow.
From 627 a year.
Wow.
So we fell by 94% of our sales from 2012 to 2017. I take over the CEO role then, and I'd race it all the way back up to 100 million in sales. But it was too little too late, ran out of cash, cost structure shifted, TCPA, class action lawsuit, all the stuff. And it is what it is.
Dude, up and down.
What a decade.
Journey. Yeah, what a decade.
What a decade what a life that decade was.
Yeah, lived many lives in that decade.
Yeah.
So now what do you do now? Because I know it's always refreshing and amazing to see successful people always building and always creating, right? It's like we can never retire because we'll get bored, and we want that growth and contribution, and we always want to build things, right? So now what is your main focus on? I know we're like jumping into the future. What are you currently doing? What you're fired up about? What are you building?
I still participate passively with the company that kind of acquired some of our assets with Prove It. And I love my Italian organization, the best group of people I've ever worked with in 25 years of that industry. I knew I had a different calling as well. And I also had a chip on my shoulder, right? If you're a traditional business person watching this podcast right now, I guarantee a bunch of people have already asterisked this as, oh yeah, but he did network marketing, so it doesn't count. Yeah. It doesn't count network marketing. And I always felt that I'd be in rooms with people that were in like traditional business space, and they're like, "Oh, I heard you had a wellness fitness challenge that did a couple billion in sales in 19 countries. How did you do that?" And I'd start to explain, "Oh, MLM. Oh yeah, got it." And it's like it was automatically discounted. I'm like, "But it was 2 billion in sales, dude." That mattered, in their world, it wasn't real. So I've always had this kind of chip on my shoulder that I want to prove to myself that I can build a 9-figure per year sales company, not utilizing the compensation methodologies of multi-level. And I've launched a sales accelerator, which allows me to limit the amount of people I have to work with. Where network marketing is about building the biggest army, I just want the Navy SEALs. I just want the best 20, 30, 40 top sales professionals I can find of great culture. I'm putting deals together in high multiple industries with mid-cap companies. We take equity stakes in their companies. We blow out the sales. They exit when they exit. And it's, I got to be able to leave this planet saying I built a 9-figure-a-year company, not in network marketing. And I know if I fail at it, I can always go back. It's just like Grand Rapids. I knew if I went to California, but I promise you, I ain't going back. I ain't going back. I'm not waving the flag saying I couldn't do it.
I love that.
And I haven't been this focused, inspired, on fire, sacrificing, committing hours, all of it, since I had achieved all my dreams in the middle of 2012, where it's like, well, this is all of them. I got the Ferrari. I got a mansion on Palm Island. I got the wife. I got the near $1 billion company. I'm wealthy. I've got the largest condo in my old hometown. I went back and built a 7,000 square foot penthouse in the highest building, just to be like top of the. It's like I'm the what do you call it? Be like it's like the hugest fish in this really itty bitty small pond. All stupid stuff. And I've done all that. I did all that in my early mid 30s, and it's taken me a while. I'm now almost 44 to figure out what's a lane that I'm willing to sacrifice as much as I sacrificed when I was 24. What's a lane that I can get as committed now as I was when I was 28? But do it better and healthier in terms of my style than I've ever done it before.
I love that. I think just so everybody knows as well, like it's very inspiring and it fires me up to be around you. And, people often ask me, it's like, Nick, how do you have success at 26 years old? It's like look who I hang around with. I hang around with people who are veterans, who have built something, who have created something. And the fastest way to condense time is to learn from people. And we're giving free game right now. Like you should be taking notes. You should be downloading the mental syntax. You can see how you can apply this savage mindset or the psychology into whatever you're doing. And you'll notice patterns within successful people. There's specific patterns that every successful person does. And it's an honor to just be in proximity to you. I mean, this is a new found friendship, right? And both our names Nick, so that helps as well. But I'm honored and I'm blessed to be in your proximity because of what you built, the caliber you've done it, who you are as a man, who you are as a father, who you are as a part, all of that. And so I just want to acknowledge you. Like I analyze all of you in a good way. And that's how I have been able to condense time. Nick, how do you speak so well? Watch Tony Robbins. Like I find the best in what they do, and I learn from them. And so I know this is valuable for those that are watching, but I just want to let you know, like I don't take this lightly, and it's extremely valuable for me. And we could go hours because we might have to do a part 2 because I want to go into your kids and the way that you educated them and what you've exposed them to. And that's a whole other time because I know I have a lot of parents that are entrepreneurial that probably have kids that we have to do a part 2. I'm just saying. But I'd like for you to share as we end off for that 18-year-old, that 20-year-old, that 22-year-old that's not coming from a family that's very entrepreneurial, but knows, they have that seed inside. I got more to be, I got more to give. Like, what would you tell them? If you could go back to your younger self and give them one piece of advice, what would that be?
I will. And first of all, I want to reverse that around and say thank you to you, because it's weird to say at my age, because I still think I'm 25.
It's good. It's great.
And I know you look at me like you got gray shit in your beard. But like I work out, run, have fun, all of it like I'm still 25. But it's being around that next wave that keeps me, fired up to go do it again, right? Because doing it again is much fucking harder than doing it the first time. Like it's harder to recreate the momentum and to, I'm finding it to be, right? So it's being in proximity with someone like yourself who's in it and thriving and having fun and enjoying that process and making that run. It keeps me, it becomes gasoline, to my fire. So thank you. And to you young sons of bitches out there. So I kind of referenced a little bit of this earlier. I think number one is your story is not unique. One of the ways I've always stayed very Level 10 is I use context of other people's stories, right? It's like your story creates so much context for someone who's creating excuses. Like any excuse you could have, look what fucking Nick is doing, right? Go look what anyone else is doing that doesn't have the same capacities that you have, and then ask yourself, what's really your excuse? That's one way. The other way I use context is look at people that did it, just go, oh, my football coach used to say, that other team, they put their underwear on the same way you do, one leg at a time. They don't do two legs at a time, right? And so for my heroes, I always reminded myself of that. So I think you just say to yourself, I'm a human being. If they can do it, so can I. And also use context. Look at people that had everything stacked against them that did it anyways, and you still have not. I would say if people don't have what you want, and even if you love them dearly, stop listening to them. It doesn't mean stop loving them, right? It doesn't mean stop respecting them. It means immediately stop listening to them. No one can advise you on, number one, no one can advise you on what your dream or what your purpose is, because that's personal. Nobody can advise you on that. Now, they can try to advise you on how to do it, or try to advise you on whether or not it's possible. And if they don't have what you want, don't listen to that advice. Full stop. It doesn't mean don't love them, don't respect them. It means don't listen to them. Oh, but I'm going to have to. Yeah, that's what that means. But I don't know if, okay, then be broke and average the rest of your life. You're going to have to make hard decisions. I wanted to say this to you earlier. I'm going to say this now. Do you know what the number one reason for most marriages on a percentage basis is? The number one most common factor in most marriages, when you look across all marriages, what the number one most common factor is? Proximity. Proximity. They grew up near each other. That's the number one. You look at all humans that have been married, what's the one factor that you can tie almost all of them together? Oh, they grew up together. They lived close together. They lived down the street. Proximity, right? So just imagine what would happen if you fucking leave and like, what could be available to you? What else is out there? Like, so that means your income is probably reflective of your proximity. That means your lifestyle is reflective of your proximity. Your intelligence is reflective of your proximity. I'd recommend you change where you're at and you go get into a different proximity of people that have what you want and want what you want. Start with want what you want, and you'll build yourself up to the people that have what you want, and make immediate, drastic, quick changes and go all in. Go all in and go all in now. Well, what if you don't? What if you fucking make it? What if it works? What if it doesn't? Stop letting that be an option. But I will tell you, it's still going to take 4 years. And the first 2 years are all pain. It's just nothing but failure and nothing but loss and nothing but else. And then it starts to work a little bit, and then it starts to work a little bit more, and then year 5 it really starts to work.
Bro, that's spot on. Because I'm like year 5. I'm like year 5, maybe moving into year 6, and I like look at Rappy, I'm like, I think we finally figured it out. I think it's working. So, bro, this has been amazing. Where can people dive deeper with you? If they want to contact you, if they want to dive deeper, if they want to do some business, or they just want to learn from you, where can they find you?
I think if it's content, I would go to nickstube.com. That's an old school hack right there. nickstube.com. It just points to my YouTube channel.
Let's go. Yeah.
But if you want to get in contact, nickslinktree.com. Another old school hack. I buy domains and point them at the other stuff. nickstube.com or nickslinktree.com.
He's giving game even if it's call to action. I love it. Well, this has been the Victorious Podcast with Nick Santonastasso. It's been an amazing time. Listen, you should probably rewatch it. You should probably write some notes. You should probably reach out to him and see if you can get some proximity. It's really hard to get proximity up. But hey, shoot. Get in his DMs. See how you can best serve him. And I would say if you're coming to someone and you want some value, you want some proximity, see how you can provide value to them first so we can leverage the law of reciprocity. If I do something great for Nick, he's more compelled to do something for me rather than me just trying to take from him. And in this world of entrepreneurship and personal development, there's a whole lot of takers and not many givers. So be a giver, over deliver. And this is the Victorious Podcast, where we help you elevate your standards of life. Send it love. See you on the other one.